AITA for suing my girlfriend after she had my 1967 Impala project taken to the scrapyard. By Jimothyisyouruncle. I'll try to keep this short. I had a 1967 Impala 4-door, that I bought in February 2019. A couple months ago I bought my first house that had a 2.5 car garage. I moved the car in and started tearing it down for a complete restoration. I had the body in one bay and the chassis in another, plus the whole garage filled with parts. About 2 months ago my girlfriend came to live with me during this whole crisis and the whole time has hated that car. She wants to park in the garage, but I have 2 acres of land with a lot of nice places to park under shady trees or hell even in the barn if it has to be inside. I tell her tough luck, it's my house and it's not like I can just throw it back together real quick. Anyways, I was out of town for a couple days on a business trip for the small local company I work for. When I got back, my girlfriend was all smiles. Making me food all the time, doing all the chores, all that. Though maybe she just was happy to have me home, but then I realized that I didn't see her car in its usual spot. I asked her where she parked so I could make sure I mow that area and keep it clean, and she said not to worry because she parked in the garage. I asked how and she told me to go check it out. Turns out that while I was gone she hired some people to come over and move everything related to that car, including the drivetrain, body, and chassis and all parts, and take it to the local dump/scrapyard. I was absolutely dumbfounded. I had spent over $11,000 on that car including new parts, services, and the car itself. I told her that I was going to be taking her to court for that and she brushed me off like I was being dramatic. I told her that it's done between us and to pack her things and leave. I admit I was really angry, but I did end up getting a lawyer, and as I have all the receipts for all that money spent and I have her on my house as security cam footage letting the guys in and watching them take it all, I think I can win. Her family and friends are absolutely blowing me up, saying it's just a stupid old piece of junk and that she cannot pay back all that money I spent, and that I should just let it go. But I have been putting all my time, effort, and money into that car for 1.5 years now, and goddammit if I am not going to get justice for what she did. AITA. Edit. Thank you all so much for the support and awards and everything. I'm glad I have some people on my side. I got a call from her mom about 20 minutes ago and she told me that I was ruining her daughter's life over a stupid car. I told her she ruined her own life. I've been gathering documentation and stuff and I'm about to head down to the police station and file a report, as suggested by lots here. Once again thank you all. Update: went to the police station last night, was told to come back in the morning. Just got back and filed an official report against her for grand larceny and grand theft auto. I showed them all the receipts I had for the car and the footage of her letting the guys come and take it, as well as the title for the vehicle in my name. They said they will be in contact with all 3 parties, me, XGF, and junkyard guys, soon, and they will hopefully be able to recover some or all of the car. Just have to wait now. Huge update: they found my goddamn car. The junkyard guys apparently were in the middle of hiding it when the police came to ask them questions. It was on a forklift and they were gonna put it on top of a pile of cars that was hidden behind more piles of cars. They said it was theirs and they had the title, but obviously didn't have the title for it, and since they matched the VIN on the chassis and body to the VIN on my title, it was obviously mine. I know at least one person there has been arrested. I think he was in the camera footage I talked about earlier, but I'd key if it was the boss or whomever or even his specific charge. They also told me they would be looking into this specific junkyard for any other vehicles reported stolen. They said they haven't been able to get in contact with my ex just yet, but they're working on it. I'm just so glad they found my car. Luckily I made quite an album of pictures detailing me tearing down the car, and so I can use that to prove what parts they had were mine, so I can hopefully get most or all of it back. Police haven't let me take it back home yet, as they say it is evidence or something, so hopefully I can get it back eventually. Thank you all so much for the support and advice. She's gonna be alright.
AITA for pretending to get fired when customers get a temper with me? By throwRA-fhfsveyary. I am a high schooler with a weekend job at a coffee shop. My co-workers who work weekends are James, the owner's son. He goes to my school. He's a shift manager, but it's not a real formal thing. He's a friendly guy. Danielle, a college student who sometimes works weekends too. So sometimes customers will come in and just be angry about such little stuff. Like literally blow up about nothing. I don't know if they're in a bad mood already and looking for someone to take it out on or what, but it's a lot. Like how sad so you have to be a grown-ass man taking your anger out on high school and college kids. So James and I were joking about having a little fun with them and hopefully getting them off our backs. So one day I was at work and some guy was having a temper about how we don't make the coffee hot enough. Which I couldn't do a thing about because I gave it to him right out of the machine. So James came in and was like, "Sir, is there a problem here?" And the guy started ranting at him too. So he was just like, "Hop, this is unacceptable, you're fired." I started acting real sad, like, "No, please don't fire me, my family needs the money, I need this job, please." And he played up being a hard ass, telling me to take off my apron and leave. The angry guy started to backtrack, like it isn't that big of a problem, you don't need to fire her over it. I didn't mean it, and James was like, "No, we pride ourselves on the best customer service." Of course, after all that drama, I still had my job. We were just acting. And we've done it a couple times. Whenever a customer will lose their temper at Danielle or I, James will storm in and fire us. And almost every time, the person who had come in angry will apologize and say that they didn't mean it. It's kind of satisfying, making people realize their actions might actually have consequences. Anyway, I was telling my friends from school about this and a few of them thought it was a mean prank, to let someone go away thinking they'd gotten someone who desperately needs the money fired. AITA for this joke?
AITA for making a dad joke? By DadJokeAITA. Note: my stepdaughter, Madeline, was about a year old when I married her mother, Jessica. Madeline's father died before she was born. Madeline is currently 15, and she's rebelling for almost everything. She did something bad, so while picking her up, I set a punishment up for her. Then she said, "You're not my dad. I don't have to follow you." Honestly, I got a bit hurt from that. But I understand that she didn't mean it, and that she'd probably change. I just replied, "I'm still your legal guardian for the next 3 years, and as long as you're in my house, you have to follow my rules." That happened about 2 days ago. So our family was going grocery shopping, when Madeline said, "I'm hungry. I need food." I decide to be extremely cheeky and say, "Hi, hungry, I'm not your dad." My son just started to laugh uncontrollably. My daughter was just quiet with embarrassment. And my wife was berating me not to stoop down to her level. I honestly thought it was a funny dad joke. And my son agrees. So AITA? Edit: I did adopt her. So legally I am her parent. Mini update: I'll probably give a full update later, but here is what happened so far. I go to my daughter's room after dinner and begin talking with her. "Hey. I'm really sorry that I hurt you by the words I said. And I am really your dad. I changed your diapers, I met your boyfriend, and I plan on helping you through college. And plus I'm legally your dad, so we're stuck together. But seriously, I'm going to love you like my daughter even if you don't think I'm your dad." Then I hugged her. She did start to cry. I assume that's good.
AITA for telling my extended family how many men, roughly, my sister has slept with after she outed our youngest brother as a virgin. By ThunderBear998. We had a family dinner this evening. My family has 4 kids in total: me, my eldest sister, 29F, youngest sister, 24F, and youngest brother, 22M. Extended family attended our family dinner. So all of our significant others, our cousins, aunts and uncles etc. During the dinner my elder sister and youngest brother got into a mild disagreement. My sister seemed, at least to me, to be coming across as very aggressive out of frustration and losing said argument. The two of them were too absorbed in their argument to realize the rest of us were getting a bit fed up. Eventually my sister got really fed up and said, "Shut up, I'm not going to argue with a 22-year-old virgin." My brother hadn't done any personal attacks up until that point. It was completely unprovoked. I think it might have been the alcohol, as my sister is a mean drunk. Anyway, I immediately told my sister to grow up and that she was making an embarrassment of herself. She replied by saying everyone knows her's a virgin and she didn't say anything wrong. This annoyed me, as my bro definitely has confidence issues and doesn't need to be made fun of like this. So I responded by saying how she slept with well over 100 men while she was in college, and that since everyone in the family knows this, it's not a big deal, right? Turns out her husband didn't know this. Amazingly, I genuinely assumed he must have known. He left the party angrily, saying my sister misled him about her past. Family is blaming me for their marital problems. I refuse to accept I did anything wrong. My sister bullied my brother in front of everyone. All I did was give her a taste of her own medicine.
AITA for suggesting my 7-yo name his new stuffed tiger Tig Bitties? By Remember to You. Pretty much the title. My son won a stuffed tiger at the fair last night and said he had named him Tig. He asked me what its last name should be. I couldn't help myself and just instantly replied Bitties. Then I turned to my wife to share a smirk, but she was pissed and quickly suggested a few different last names, but my son insisted that he liked Bitties, so now his tiger is Tig Bitties. My wife thinks it was completely inappropriate. I think it was a silly joke that went over his head and will have no negative ramifications.
WIBTA for refusing to stop cooking bacon in my kitchen due to my teenage daughter's vegan lifestyle? By frustratingbaconeate. Dad here, old fart, loves his daughter to pieces, but I'm struggling to see eye to eye with my teenager and wife on this one. We've always been a meat-eating family. We live in the rural Midwest and bacon for breakfast is pretty much a given. This year my 14-years-old daughter decided to go vegan, and I jumped onto her support team with enthusiasm. We learned how to substitute ingredients, cook new things, try new things. I adjusted our budget to include more expensive vegan substitutes for her, etc. None of this has been a problem for me until recently. She saw me cook bacon in a pan, and then I rinsed it out to load in the dishwasher. She exploded in anger. Teen years, I'm not too fussed about the anger explosion. I know she doesn't mean it, and said that that was her pan for vegan food. I was completely floored and said, "Kiddo, this here is a family pan, older than you, it's not your pan." She asked me to purchase her a pan that she can solely use for vegan food. I didn't want her to feel weird about food, so I said sure, and ordered her a few colored ones that are only for her. The reason they're colored is so it helps me remember that I'm not to touch them unless I'm cooking vegan. That wasn't good enough. Now apparently the dishwasher is contaminated with animal product, and the fridge has bacon grease fingers on it, because I eat bacon and then touch the fridge, and she's asked me and her mom to completely stop eating meat at home. I don't mean I literally touch the fridge with greasy bacon hands, because I wash my hands, but it's clearly enough that it upsets my daughter. Frankly, I'm on team hell no. Her mom is much more amenable and strongly wants me to consider taking our daughter up on the request. My wife's reasoning is that both our parents live close so we can eat meat products there, and that she doesn't want our daughter to feel uncomfortable in the kitchen. My daughter says she is fine with cheese and butter in the fridge, but it's specifically meat products that make her feel sick. Now, I'm sorry for her, but I feel like she just needs to adapt and live side by side, because I'm not going to stop eating bacon in my own house.
AITA for wearing the joke bikini my friend got me? By aitabikini. So it was my birthday couple months ago. Had a party. Got some gifts. My friend Mandy for me a super cute bikini. I liked it. Said thanks. She had ripped the tags off, but whatever. Anyway. Went to the community pool with my roommate. Wore bikini. Got in the water. Roommate immediately is like, girl. I look and see that this bikini is now kinda see-through. Haha, good joke Mandy. Anyway, Mandy invited me over to her place to hang out with her and her BF and a few others. Most leave and we're still hanging out. I'm like, hey, what if we get in your hot tub? I go change after them. And meet her BF in the hot tub. She's getting new drinks. I hop in. Immediately, Hess looking at my chest. I pretend I don't notice and just make small talk. She comes out a few minutes after. And just looks in shock. Eventually gets in. Is that the one I bought? Yeah, I love it. I wear it everywhere. Make up some stuff about how I wore it to the beach, some party with lots of guys, etc. and she's just like, oh. We're in the tub for 20 to 30. Eventually get out and change. She approached me after and was like, I'm sorry, thought you'd notice. But it goes kinda see-through. I'm like, yeah, I know, could you buy me a ducking see-through bathing suit? She's like, it's a joke. Wait, you knew? So you just spent last 30 flashing my BF on purpose? I reply, I'm just wearing my birthday gift from her. Anyway. AITA?
AITA for punishing my son after he said something racist? By Snoo Paintings 9288. About a week ago, my 39F family ordered Chinese food for delivery. When the delivery driver came to the door, my daughter, 16F, was taking the cat upstairs to put in her room because he always tries to eat the food. My son, 13M, loudly says, make sure to hide the cat from the Chinese guy. As I am at the door getting the food from the Chinese delivery driver. He very obviously heard what my son said and was upset by it. I quickly apologized and took the food. I told my son that racist jokes were completely unacceptable and very wrong, and he refused to admit that he was in the wrong. So, later that night I forced my son to write a sincere apology to the delivery driver. His name was on the receipt, as well as write a one-page paper on Chinese culture and a one-page paper on why racism is perpetuated by racist jokes and stereotypes. Then the next day I took him to the restaurant and had him read his apology aloud to the delivery driver as well as give him the papers he wrote. The driver was very appreciative of the apology and thanked me for making my son do it. He then told my son about multiple instances where he had faced racist comments and attacks from people while he was a delivery driver. That night my husband, 43M, and I got into an argument about me making our son do this. He told me that it was embarrassing for our son to have to do the apology and that the punishment didn't fit the crime. I told him that it was much more embarrassing for the driver to have to face that kind of racism and racist stereotypes and that our son would get over the embarrassment. I do not condone any kind of hateful thinking in my house, and the fact that my son said that embarrassed me as well. My husband told me that it was just a joke and it wasn't that big of a deal. I feel like I might have overreacted some, but I think it's important to help my son understand how what he said was wrong and hurtful.
AITA for telling my son he deserved his GF breaking up with him? By Inappropriate Dress 77. So my son had a long-distance GF recently for about 2 years. She was great, a really nice girl, and we all loved her, welcomed her with open arms. She was flying here constantly to visit him, like a weekend a month, and he didn't lift a finger to go visit her. I tried talking to him about it several times and told him he should really start looking into flying over to her instead of expecting her to do all the traveling. He said no. And my wife probably had something to do with it, as she constantly told him she was afraid of him flying. I spoke to them both and said this girl is great for him, she was willing to move over to our country too, but said there was one condition, and that was he'd have to fly over to her country too. Which is fair enough. He said no, he didn't want to fly or travel anywhere. My son was becoming lazier and lazier, eventually telling his GF and us that he was perfectly fine never traveling anywhere including holidays etc. Last week, he told us she's dumped him. I went on her FB page, as we're all still friends. She wrote us an apology letter about how she's upset it didn't work out, but these things happen, so we're on good terms, and looks like she's with a new guy already. Me and my wife have no doubt she was seeing him whilst still in a relationship with my son. I confessed to them both that I actually agree with her decision and he should have expected it. He did not treat her properly, and I hope he learns lessons for the next one because he needs to make more of an effort. I said he deserves it for his lack of effort in the relationship and for essentially just allowing this girl to spend all her money and time coming here all the time. Wife and son are very upset that I said this. Very, very upset, and my wife says I am being horrible. AITA? I stand by what I said.
AITA for sleeping naked on top of the covers to teach my flatmates GF a lesson? By billybuttpimples. New to Reddit, please bear with. So I, 21, guy, live with my childhood best friend, 22, also a guy, and have done for 2 years now. Up until last week, things were perfect between us. However, he recently got a new girlfriend, 23, lady, and she honestly seems absolutely great except for one thing: she seemingly has a complete aversion to knocking. She and I have quite a lot in common, and I actually like spending time with her. However, it bugs the hell out of me when she just barges into my room without knocking first. Now, she's never walked in on me doing anything untoward. I'm usually just chilling on my bed or studying at my desk. However, on at least 7 separate occasions now she's done it first thing in the morning to ask if I want coffee. I sleep naked. Every time prior to the last one, I've been under the covers and she hasn't seen anything. I always point out that she could have and she just giggles and says but I didn't. When she stayed over last week, in order to make my point, I intentionally slept on top of the covers. Sure enough, she barges in at 7 a.m., begins to ask if I want coffee and sees my you-know-what. She immediately backed out of the room and didn't speak to me for the rest of the day. My mate later pulled me aside and said I was bang out of order, accused me of deliberately exposing myself and pointed out that I'd threatened to do it before. I literally just said okay, but what if I had no covers and you saw everything before? They're now framing this to others that I'm some sick creep who intentionally got naked and lay in wait of her because that's how I get my rocks off, and I'm kinda seeing how it came off that way. AITA for doing this?
AITA for despising my mentally handicapped sister? By Renegades Rule 33. The title makes me sound horrible, but hear me out. My sister is severely autistic. She requires attention almost 24/7 and cannot be left alone. She is nonverbal and cannot take care of herself at all. Despite the fact that she is only 12, she is extremely destructive and violent and destroys anything she gets her hands on. I hate her. That should be wrong to say, but it doesn't feel like it. I was only 6 years old when she was born, and since then I've never solely had my parents' attention. Even since I can remember, the world has revolved around her. I was moved out of my room into the basement at 7 because she needed to be in the room next to my parents. All of my toys as a child were destroyed by her, and my parents simply ignored me when I complained. Even when I was 14 and she destroyed a Mac my school gave me, I was in the run. Along with this, I am expected to take care of her and drop everything I do for her. I can never make plans with friend because my parents expect me to be there if they need me to take care of her. Even when I do somehow get time to myself, I am required to leave if they need me. If I do not, then I am punished. The recent example of this is when I went to see the new Spider-Man movie, and was grounded because I turned my phone off in the theater. It seems as if I am nothing more than a slave to them, and anything involving her simply overshadows me. This last week I was chosen to give a speech at a school event. I was so excited, and my parents promised to be there, but they never showed and claimed it was because of my sister. Anytime anything like this happens for me, they are too busy with her. I've held this in for so long, and it finally spilled out today. While talking about colleges with my father, he joked that I should get a degree that pays well so when they're gone I can take care of my sister. I don't know why, but this caused me to break down. I cried and screamed about how it's always about her. I'm nothing more than a caretaker to them, that they always make it about her, and that I'm expected to be her slave for the rest of my life. I've locked myself in my room since then, and my parents have not come to check on me. Am I the asshole here? Edit/update kinda. Wow, thank you for all the support and love that you guys have given me. I never expected this post to reach the popularity it did. Thank you all. After thinking about it for these past hours, you are right that I don't despise my sister. It's not her fault that she was born the way she is. My parents came to talk to me a while after my breakdown, but I was unable to bring myself to talk to them and only cried and asked them to leave. They have made arrangements with my grandfather for me to stay with him for the time being, and I'm getting ready to go to his house. My parents want to talk to me, but we have decided it's best I leave for now to have some space and time to collect myself. We will be sitting down and talking later this week about this issue. Thank you all again for the love and support through this 3. I'll send an update you guys way later this week if people are interested.
AITA for telling my girlfriend to shut the fuck up after she insulted my sister's thighs? By bluebells-in-disguis. I'm 30 and my 12-year-old sister is living with me right now because mom and pops are vulnerable, so it made more sense for me to care for my sis for the time being. She is a really great kid, and TBH I feel in a lot of ways like she's my own kid because my mom and dad don't speak English, so I kind of had to raise my sis in ways that they couldn't. Hard to explain, but I'm sure anyone with a secondary culture will get what I mean. My mom and dad are great parents, but having an English speaking person to guide you through shit when you live in an English speaking country is invaluable. Emo, and my sister trusts me with stuff she won't necessarily trust my parents with. Anyway, my girlfriend was FaceTiming me and my sister walked past in shorts and a t-shirt cause it's hot. My sister GF waited till my sister had left the area, but not the room, and made a face and said maybe feed her less up, her thighs are kinda chunky. I sweared and told her to shut the fuck up, just came out my mouth, and immediately ended the call. My sister is a bit chubby, but FFS who says stuff like that about a 12-year-old girl. Literally. Everybody I know has been texting me that I'm a pos boyfriend and that how can I disrespect my GF like that. I am expecting an apology from her, but to my shock everybody is expecting me to apologize. So Reddit, AITA?
AITA for giving my ex-wife a large amount of money I won despite the anger of my GF? By Binkies123. I recently won a fuck you amount of money. I won't say exactly how much, but it's in the millions. It makes me feel funny even typing. It's enough to change the life of myself and my family. My ex-wife is the mother of my 2 kids. She is an amazing woman and good to the bone. We divorced 6 years ago because I had an affair with my current partner. I was in a low place in my life and I fucked up. She was in incredible pain, but, like a fucking saint, she allowed me to still see our kids who mean the world to me, allowed our divorce to be as pain-free as possible despite the fact that I know she was hurting. She still is close with my parents. She is respectful to me although she refuses to talk to my GF. She was actually the first person I phoned after my mom and pops after I found out I won the lottery. She was pleased for me, joked that I could take the kids on a world round trip, and that was that. Nothing else. As soon as I won, I knew I wanted to give her a significant amount. I still love her. She's the mother of my babies and I feel like this is some small tiny way I can show her that I'm not a complete fuck up. She deserves to know that I care despite my mistakes. She also works a shitty job in the public library which pays her peanuts. She would actually be able to pursue her hobbies this way. Give our kids a better life between us. I haven't discussed this with my ex yet, but I have with my parents who strongly agree and my lawyer who was very surprised but on board. Long story short, when I told my GF, she was my livid. Screaming that I'm disrespecting her, accusing me of still being in love with my ex-wife. I'm not in love with her. We've both grown apart, but of course I still love her for being an excellent co-parenting partner and mother to my kids. My GF is threatening to break up with me, and TBH I'm feeling incredibly relieved over the threats. I don't plan on changing my plans, but AITA?
AITA, telling my parents to pay me back my college tuition if they want a relationship by Daisy, Chained 89. I was raised by parents who believed, religiously and just culturally, in rigid gender roles. Dad should work, mom should stay home with the kids. I'm the only girl and have 3 brothers. Because of their expectation I'd stay home with kids, they never valued my education, educational achievements or emphasized things beyond domestic skills. I'm the second youngest. By the time I was in high school, my 2 older brothers had gone to the college of their choice, with my parents fully covering tuition, books, an off-campus apartment and other living expenses. They eventually did the same for my younger brother. I was told I wasn't allowed to apply for college. I did so in secret and got accepted with a partial scholarship. I didn't tell them I was moving out until a week before I left, with essentially nothing but what a few friends gave to me that their parents bought them for college. I took engineering, and had to work, take on debt and struggle. My parents and I have barely spoken for years. I'm married now and expecting our first child, and they asked to meet up. We met at a park, and they said they were sorry if they caused me pain but would like a relationship now. I asked them specifically what they were sorry for. They wouldn't elaborate and just said they wanted to move forward. I said that wasn't sufficient. In the end, I said they could prove they were sorry by forwarding me the $100,000 my degree and college expenses were, just like they did for my brothers. My mom burst into tears,
My dad said I wasn't being serious and I just left. Since then, I've been getting calls from my brothers telling me I'm being immature and hurtful. I don't think so at all.
AITA for switching to regular milk to prove my lactose intolerant roommate keeps stealing from me? By Godmilk_. Me and 2 other guys share an apartment together and we split all the bills. The only thing we don't split costs on is groceries. Everyone's in charge of buying their own food and we don't touch whatever doesn't belong to us in the fridge. We put our names and everything so no one gets mixed up. This issue has been going on almost a year and I'm sick of it. One of my roommates, keeps stealing my food. I get home from work and containers with my leftovers are sometimes missing, they have my name written on it, or my stuff finishes too quick. My gallon of milk for example. I buy almond milk because I like the taste. But it seems to finish after a week even though I've only drank once or twice. I confronted Dar about this lots of times and that's caused a lot of arguments. He outright denies it and tells me I'm crazy even though it's so obvious. My other roommate and I carpool together because we both work the same early morning shifts around the same area so I know it's not him. It's always after we get back home and R's already left for work that I notice my food's gone. My roommates also had a similar problem but not as often as I do. I'm guessing cause R doesn't like what he buys. The funny thing is R buys a lot for himself and is even more stingy about his food. He will literally point out what's his when he comes back from grocery shopping and tells us not to touch it. Last week, my milk was nearly empty again and I got fed up. I went to the liquor store and bought regular dairy milk. I drank what was left of my almond milk and refilled the gallon with the one I bought. This was to catch/prove R is the one stealing since he's lactose intolerant. The next day, Saturday, we get back from work and R is pissed. He yelled at me that he was stuck in the bathroom for 40 minutes with diarrhea because of my milk. He was using it to make a shake. I only responded with, "So then you're the one who's been stealing?" He freaking exploded. Yeah, he admitted he was sometimes drinking my milk and eating my food, but he was more mad that I switched milks than the fact that he was caught. I told him I wouldn't have done that if he'd just stopped taking my stuff from the fridge or at least told the truth instead of trying to make it seem like I was making it up. My roommate backed me up and thought it was kinda funny he got payback for stealing from us. It's a little tense Aaron and my roommate told me R is trying to convince him to agree to kick me out. Little does he know we're both looking to move somewhere else together cause we are sick of his shit. I told some buddies what happened and a few think I was an asshole for that. I feel like I'm not in the wrong here. He was taking my food and not even owning up to it and I wanted to prove it. Does that make me TA?
AITA for telling the girl who kissed my boyfriend for a play that she is desperate and pathetic. By ABC_throwaway 7. I, 19F, study drama at uni, and my boyfriend is on the same course. My boyfriend is a really good-looking guy, but he doesn't seem to know it. He gets a lot of attention from girls and for the most part, doesn't seem to get that they're flirting with him. I'm not generally annoyed by this, and never really say anything. However, there's one girl in our class, let's call her Victoria, who is obsessed with my boyfriend. She goes out of her way to be paired with him in group activities. For example, if the professor picks groups by numbering us 1, 2, 3, she will move herself to be in the same number as him, and she recently stepped down from a main role in a play we're doing so she could be in a more minor one, simply because this character has a romance with my boyfriend. I know this is the case, because I've heard her say to her friends that she thinks he's hot and what not. I've never said anything to her about it, because she seems pretty insecure, always complaining about how she thinks she's ugly, and I don't see it as a big deal because my boyfriend doesn't care. However, we recently performed the play and had a small after party where she got slightly drunk and was bragging about how she definitely felt something when they kissed in the play and she's going to ask him if he felt the same. I rolled my eyes and again ignored it, until she actually went up to my boyfriend. She was a little bit drunk, and when she went up to him I was there too. Victoria started saying that she knows he must have felt a spark, he's a really good kisser, etc. I snapped, and sort of shouted at her that you sound incredibly desperate, going after somebody else's boyfriend. You're pathetic if you think a stage kiss means you should be together. She looked super embarrassed and walked away, and I later heard she'd gone home crying. I feel like a dick because she's obviously insecure and whatnot, and her friends haven't stopped calling me a bitch since. AITA. Edit, she 100% knows that I am his girlfriend. I have heard her talking about me being his girlfriend before.
AITA for jumping out of a bathroom window to avoid my mom's attempt at forcing a reunion between me and my ex-fiancé? By holidayaholethrow. Some backstory: I had been dating my ex-fiancé Sarah for 4 years. We had been planning to get married in November 2020, but I found out at the start of this month that she cheated on me. She begged me to give her another chance, but I broke it off. The problem was that being cheated on is, in my mind, completely emasculating and humiliating. So I never told anyone that was the reason we broke up. For obvious reasons, Sarah also didn't tell people we broke up because she cheated. So people have blamed me for the breakup, including my mom. They just see that I dumped her out of the blue. I've gone very strict no contact with Sarah after I discovered she was cheating on me. Sarah has been talking with my mom and has convinced her that if we could talk one more time, we would be able to reconcile. My mom has been applying hardcore pressure on me to talk with Sarah, but I've explained that there is no chance we will ever get back together. So tonight I go over to my mom's place because she's hosting family for Christmas Eve. I'm there for a bit talking with my aunts and uncles and cousins when the doorbell rings and I can see it's Sarah. I ask WTF is going on and my mom says she invited Sarah so we can work this out in the spirit of the holidays. I'm pissed now because the only way to explain my side of the story is to tell everyone I was cheated on. Complete humiliation in front of my whole family. So as my mom goes to the front door, I go into the bathroom. My mom starts knocking on the door saying that I need to come out and talk to my ex like an adult. I say fuck it, kick out the window screen and get in my car and go home. My mom called a short while ago saying she's cutting ties with me over my behavior. She's really fixated on me jumping out of the window, and that Sarah will always be like a child to her. My sister called me after to ream me out for ruining Christmas. I broke down and told her that Sarah cheated on me, which is why I dumped her and didn't want to see her under any circumstances. She called me a big asshole who was lying to cover for myself. Am I really in the wrong?
AITA for asking my brother not to bring his boyfriend to my wedding? By macacaralho. Okay, this is the worst. I'm losing sleep over this. I'm getting married in a week to an awesome woman, and I cannot wait to be her husband. We are so excited. My brother is gay, but my family doesn't know, only me and my parents know. I come from a very old school traditional family, so the old part of the family, grandparents and some aunts/uncles still have last century's mind, and the younger portion, cousins/siblings are open-minded, and are living in the present. So my brother has been dating his BF for 6 months now. The dude is great. I'm so happy my brother found a great guy. But it's kind of a secret, as he hasn't told my family he is gay. I've been telling him for years that he should come out, cause I know it stresses him a lot, and I think it will make him feel better not to hide anymore, plus I bet a few family members already know anyway. But he disagrees cause he knows a part of the family won't accept it and it will be a lot of drama. I see the opposite. I see it as the sooner you know who the idiots are, the sooner we can cut them from our lives. I have no interest in having someone in my life that doesn't accept my brother being gay. Anyway, that's his decision, not mine, so for now he won't say anything. Until a few weeks ago, when he said he wants to bring his BF to my wedding. I was not expecting that, to be honest. So he went from 0 to 100 pretty fast. If it was any other occasion I would be supportive obviously, but I don't think my wedding day is the day to do that. Imagine all the drama and gossip and bullshit that would happen. And I don't want to get the attention away from my fiancé. That's her day. And I don't wanna have to worry about that on my wedding day, and I think it's a pretty good reason. I asked him why my wedding day. He said it's because he wants to celebrate love with the two people he loves the most, me and his boyfriend. This is killing me. I would fight my whole family for my brother and never speak to them again if I had to, but my wedding day is supposed to be a celebration, not a family fight, and I can't do this to my wife. That might ruin our future. I didn't even tell her. She is already stressed out, don't wanna make it even worse. With a heavy heart, I asked him to please come alone to the wedding, and that I hope he understands me. He started crying and left my house without saying anything. Next day I got a text and he said don't worry, going alone. I tried calling him but he didn't answer me, and my parents don't seem to know what's happening because they didn't say anything. He eventually called me back a few days later. We spoke. He said he understands my side, but things are still weird between us. This is the worst situation of my life. Am I the asshole for handling it the way I did? PS1, I wanna thank the reader that sent me a private message and said they hope a mass shooter shows up at my wedding, so thoughtful. PS2, thanks for the gold and stuff. Update, spoke to fiancé, couldn't keep this from her anymore, she agreed with me. Clarification, I know it won't be my brother that would cause trouble. The trouble would start with remarks and looks from some aunt/uncle. Doesn't matter, we are spending a lot of money on this wedding, planned it for a long time. My fiancé put her heart and soul into planning this wedding. I don't want to see my bride or mom crying, or some idiot uncle insulting my brother. Literally every other day of my life I will support my brother's decision to come out. Even at the wedding, I would obviously defend him. But the point is, not at the wedding. Also, my brother is not the asshole. Not at all.
AITA if I start paying my daughter's tuition over a disgusting comment she made towards my new girlfriend? By Aqua3943. My 56M wife died at the young age of 51 from a car accident. I was in deep mourning for about a year after her death. I met my new GFC 43F around January. C was the one who made me laugh for the first time after my wife died. She's smart as hell, 3 Ivy League degrees, has a dark sense of humor that I love, a terrific cook, and overall an amazing woman who I can imagine spending the rest of my life with. She is also on the heavier side, a fact that becomes relevant later. I have 2 children, E, 25M, and A, 19F. They were well aware that I had gotten a new GF before I first introduced them to C this summer. She got along immediately with E, but A was very standoffish. After that initial meeting I asked A if there was something wrong but she denied it. C made a few more attempts to get to know A but they were all rudely rejected. E and A both came home for Thanksgiving dinner. I asked A to please be polite during the meal since she's always been rude in her interactions with C even though C has been nothing but gracious in return. The dinner was going as well as it could have for the first 10 minutes, although I noticed A glaring at C the entire time. When C went to grab her third helping of mashed potatoes, I said, "Don't you think you've eaten enough, you fat pig?" C started sobbing immediately and ran off into the bedroom. I felt my face turn red and told A to get out. About half an hour after A left I texted her stating that I would no longer pay her tuition unless 1. She apologized to C and 2. C accepts her apology. I must have assumed that I was bluffing because she instead doubled down on her behavior during Thanksgiving dinner. I then logged into her university's tuition payment website, cancelled next semester's tuition, and sent A the screenshots. She called me crying and begging me to reconsider but I told her my mind was made up.
AITA for asking mom's boyfriend to stop trying to parent me? By deleted. Edit, the boyfriend doesn't live with us and doesn't pay rent or bills. Him and his daughters spend time here and pay only for their food, something I do as well. My dad died suddenly about a year ago, and my mom found this really nice guy that she started seeing. I'm 23M and going into my final year of college. My mom's boyfriend has 2 daughters ages 15 and 13. My mom has stepped in to be a mother figure to them, and the boyfriend has stepped into my extended family becoming everyone's favorite uncle. And while I'm glad everyone else is comfortable, I'm not. He isn't a bad guy, I'm just still grieving my father, and it feels like he's trying to replace him. He tries to set rules for me, things like chores and curfew, that my dad specifically didn't because he thought they were ridiculous for an adult. Boyfriend thinks it's only fair because I have siblings now. I think it's ridiculous to have the same rules apply because of our age differences. He's trying to get me to share my stuff with his kids. They aren't lacking for anything, but he thinks it's only fair because family tilde. I live in the basement of my mom's house. I have since I was 15. When you come in the front door there is a door to the basement and the stairs to go into the house. So it's pretty separate. So last night I was ding for some friends and got home at 2 a.m. I had nothing to do until 3 p.m. today since classes aren't until next week and my new job starts in 2 weeks. So this has never been a big deal with my parents. I shot my mom a text and went to bed. Tonight though, man, boyfriend flipped. I got a lecture and sent to my room and possible loss of car privileges. I snapped and laid it out for him. I told him I'm leaving the city after I graduate. I told him I'm glad my mom found a new partner but that I am not and will not be looking for a new father figure and he needs to respect that. I told him our relationship won't be father/son for some time, and that he needs to respect me as an adult or that I won't want to have a relationship with him. He told my family and they think I'm the asshole. AITA?
AITA for not telling my dad he isn't getting the inheritance he's expecting? By gruyerech. My mother died when I was 16. My dad married another woman 2 years later. My grandparents, my dad's parents, hate my stepmother. I really don't like her either. Even after my half-siblings were born, my grandparents never warmed up to her. My grandparents are quite wealthy. My father has been banking on this inheritance for a while. He has even been not paying into his retirement because he's so sure that he will inherit the millions. I just found out on Saturday that I'm getting the majority of my grandparents' estate. My father is getting a token amount of $50,000 so he can't dispute it. My grandparents made me promise not to give out any money after and I intend to keep my word. But I do feel really guilty that my father just spends his money as it's coming in because he's relying on money he won't get. I also found out my dad is in a lot of debt. AITA for not telling him?
AITA for keeping my website up after being asked to remove it? By AnonymousMeese. Updated 7:50 p.m. Holy crap. Thank you for the outpour of support, everyone. I never thought posting this in an online community was going to reach the right highs so quickly. I had written this on my lunch break and was completely blown away and brought to tears when I checked back in after work. Several people reached out with helpful resources, including a litigator on Reddit who put me in contact with a colleague who practices in my state. Apparently there is precedent and people have won against the state, although it did take several years. My intent was to answer more questions since I wasn't able to do that while at work. I was also going to post the website as that has been a popular request, however I've been told not to continue further discussions beyond what I have already posted if I wish to pursue a civil suit. Just a couple things I want to address in my update here. Some people are saying I'm leaving out details. My original post was much longer but there's a 3,000 character limit imposed. I had to delete a lot of things from my initial draft, so I apologize if it looks like details have been left out. I did try to make sure everything that was relevant was kept. Lastly, my son is now back with me. There was a lot of paperwork and even a court hearing, but we're together now and that's what counts. I'm sorry if I didn't respond to your comment or private message. I'm still going through my unread messages and still have quite a lot left to read. Truly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for your support, words of encouragement, and advice that you sent my way. I can't even begin to put into words how grateful I am. Again, thank you so much to all the kind strangers who went out of their way to help. Back in November 2018 I was arrested at work in front of my boss and coworkers. It was the most humiliating thing I've ever experienced. I later learned at the police station that I was being charged with multiple felonies. This came as a huge surprise. Luckily I was able to keep my wits and lawyer up instead of speaking with a detective. For $13,000, which completely wiped my savings, I was able to retain a criminal defense attorney. However, it cost me everything and I was unable to pay my bond. This resulted in me staying in jail for a total of 54 days. At a status hearing, my attorney presented video evidence of me gassing up my car 3 hours away from where the crimes took place, and I ended up having all my charges dismissed. When I finally got out, I learned that I had lost my job, was in the process of being evicted, and my son was in the state's care. His mother is a heroin addict, and I haven't spoken to my own parents in nearly 15 years. They wouldn't let him go to my girlfriend because they didn't consider her family. Since my release, I've learned that I can't sue the police, and no one gives a shit that I was locked up for 54 days because the detective did poor investigation work. I've gone to the local press about this and was told that what happened to me happens quite a bit. They took down my info but never followed up. So what I did was create a website sharing my story. I also uploaded the police report and some other documents from the discovery. Literally the only reason why I was arrested was because an eyewitness said they saw me. If the detective had done his job, he could have verified that I wasn't even in town on the day the crimes took place. This is what pisses me off the most. My life was ruined because of a lazy employee. I'm writing this now because my website is now ranked 2 on the first page of search results when you type in my town's name. I live in a touristy town and we attract a lot of visitors over the summer. My web traffic has more than quadrupled, and apparently it's gotten someone high up's attention. I received a cease and desist letter recently, which I showed to my attorney. He said sharing my experience online isn't illegal and that everything I had stated was a fact or my own opinion, protecting me from a defamation lawsuit. Yesterday I received a visit from 2 officers and the detective who had arrested me. He apologized, stating mistakes can happen. They then talked to me about my website and asked if I could remove it. I said I would delete it on the condition that the detective leave his job and never do police work again. Suffice to say that isn't happening. After the visit I received, I'm more pissed off that the only reason the detective apologized to me was to get me to take down my website. I don't plan to, and the only one supporting this is my girlfriend. My friends think I'm being spiteful and have suggested that I just delete it. AITA for keeping my website up? Edit, grammar. AITA for telling a social worker the real reason my sister wants a foster kid? By deleted. So this is a throwaway account. While my sister doesn't use Reddit, we have mutual friends who do. I'm a 28F and I have a sister, 36F. For the sake of story, I'll just call Jane. Jane is married to Bob and they have 2 kids, boy and a girl. My niece and nephew are wonderful kids and no trouble at all. They fight as siblings do but nothing big. I love them. Now for about 2 years, I did live with my sister. It was a miserable time that really affected our relationship. She saw me as free labor, money and babysitting. Even when I managed to get a small part-time job, she demanded I hand over nearly half my pay or get out. It was hell as she took completely advantage of me. I moved out as soon as I could and we have little contact outside of family gatherings. Now after I moved out, she started complaining how she has no help with the kids and never gets a break. I babysit sometimes but I have made it clear, just cause I am off work, doesn't mean I want an 8-hour day with my niece and nephew. Anyway, she started talking about how she wanted to foster a kid. Not a kid but a teenager. I pressed her for more info on this. She wants to adopt a teenager so she has a live-in babysitter for her kids. This is her logic. I want a kid around 16 or 17, you know, someone who may have been in the system for a while. They can share a room with your nephew. She only has a 3-bedroom house, or sleep in the garage. They can help me with housework, chores, cook and help me with my business. She bakes and sells cookies. Also babysit the kids so me and Bob can go out sometimes or have some alone time. They'll be so grateful for a home and won't complain. I won't have to pay them at all. And then when they turn 18, I can just sign up for another foster kid. A teenager will be so much easier than a little kid. They will be grateful just to have a roof, food, siblings if they have been separated from their real ones, and clothes. I was horrified. Told her it was a horrible idea. She didn't listen to me. She went on with it anyway. About a month ago, a social worker showed up at my apartment to ask me some questions about my sister. She had put me down as a character witness or something like that. I immediately told the social worker why my sister really wanted to foster a kid and how she treated me when I lived with her. The lady thanked me. My sister called crying, saying that she wouldn't be considered for any adoptions or fosters. The social worker told her that they felt her home and her weren't a good fit. She asked if I said anything and I told the truth. She went off on me, hung up, and we haven't spoken since. She has sent some angry texts. A couple family members are on her side. They think foster kids are fucking dogs or something and would be so happy just to have a roof and would gladly do all the housework. So AITA here? Edit. So wow. I didn't know my post blew up like this till I got home from work. Thank you everyone for the kind words, messages and awards. Remember, no child is in control of the circumstances that may have landed them in the foster care system. They are children and still human. They deserve a loving home and care. Do right by a foster kid. And thank you again. Feel free to message me or chat if you like.
AITA for telling cashier that wasn't the girl's credit card? By aljsdhnrthrow. Throwaway because husband told me I was TA and want to know before I get home and argue. On phone format is bad. I was in a higher-end department store today, rhymes with looming tales, and happened to end up next to two teenage-aged girls while shopping. One of the girls had picked out a pair of very expensive boots and they were both fawning over them. Second girl must have looked at price tag and asks boots girl if she's really gonna spend that much on boots. Girl with boots says something along the lines of "It's fine, I have my dad's credit card, I'm not paying," which instantly caught my attention because that's not her card. I've told my son multiple times he's never allowed to use my card, so I'm interested to see how this girl thinks she's going to get away with fraud, but had split up from the girls at his point because they had found something else. We end up at the same register, me behind, and I see her total hit well over 4 digits. The girl is about to swipe her card when I decide that I can't let her get away with something like this and someone has to parent this kid if no one else will. I tell cashier that isn't her card but her father's and am not sure she has permission. Girl and friend turn and glare at me, giving me possibly the dirtiest look I've ever seen. I swear this girl was going to throw a tantrum right there. I don't think she was ever told no. Girl tells cashier her father gave her the card to shop with because it's the store's credit card and it gives him the points. Now that I've pointed out it wasn't hers, cashier tells her she can't use that card. Girl tries to show ID to prove they have the same last name. Yeah, that will help, and I tell her it's still fraud. Girl says it's not fraud because she has permission and tells me to mind my own business. I tell her that it is my business, that she's doing something illegal, she needs to pay with her own card or I call the cops. Girl is pissed now and people are glaring at me. She uses her own card and leaves crying. Cashier looks mad at me and I tell my husband when I get home, only for him to agree I was in the wrong. So Reddit, AITA?
AITA for ruining both my parents' marriages for disowning me? By childgonenuclear. I am the byproduct of my parents' extramarital affair. Both of them had spouses at the time. My birth mother got pregnant and had to tell her husband as he was overseas when I was conceived, so there was no way I was his. A few months after I was born they decided not to divorce. I was given to my grandparents on my mother's side to raise with my birth father secretly paying child support without his wife's knowledge. Both my parents had other children. My dad's side knows nothing about me, but my siblings on my mum's side were told that I am adopted by my grandparents. Recently I decided that I wanted to know more about my dad's family and I sent a friend's request to one of my siblings and my dad so I could get to know him. Well, he freaked out and contacted my birth mum and they asked to speak to me over Skype. They both told me that they couldn't risk staying in contact with me and told me that they were going no contact and to please respect it and move on with my life. Well, I did pretty much the opposite. I contacted my dad's wife and shared screenshots of our conversations and told her everything. She is now divorcing him, while on my mother's side I told both my siblings, who then went on to tell extended family including her husband's side, so now they are separated and my siblings hate my mother. Currently my siblings on both sides' lives have been upturned, and after the satisfaction has worn off I feel like I unnecessarily hurt them through my parents. AITA for ruining my parents' marriages.
AITA for saying my babysitting rates are $35 an hour? By HENNYDEFN. I'm a software engineer, with a full-time job and a side hustle of doing freelance coding work in my own time. I've always been the type to have a side hustle I put a lot of my free time into. I get really bored sitting idle. My freelance hourly rates are $60 an hour, and at my full-time job, my hourly pay works out to about $40 an hour. So that's how I value my time. Anyway, over Christmas vacation, I was staying at my parents' house. My cousin was also staying over with her 3 young kids from Christmas to New Year's. I'd been planning on doing some work on my freelance projects when I had free time, in the mornings when my family had no plans. I wasn't in any rush, I was already ahead of schedule on them all, but I didn't really have anything else to do. It was in a really rural area and it's like an hour drive to the nearest anything. Then my cousin and her husband asked if I could babysit all day for 3 days, so they could visit some friends in the area and hang out with just adults. I said I had planned on doing freelance work at the library, and she offered to pay me to babysit. I said I could if they got close to my freelance rates. She wanted a number, and although my freelance rates are $60, I didn't feel like that was right. It was high. But I didn't want to go too low. Honestly, babysitting 3 kids would be harder for me than the routine coding work I had for my freelance project. I don't know a lot about kids and I've never babysat for long, and I had a feeling it would be stressful and difficult. So I said $35, which is below what I make hourly at work, and what is the bare minimum I'd value my time for, if that time is spent doing difficult work. And she went crazy at me, saying that's a ridiculous rate for babysitting, that I was entitled and being selfish, that I'm trying to take advantage of how she didn't have other options, etc. I said that's way below what I'd be making if I had the time to do my own work, and I'd be putting off my own work to babysit. Her husband then got mad at me, saying that I was a 24-year-old girl, that I'm damn near a child myself, that my time is not worth that much and it's childish to say that it was. And that I was a stupid girl for not knowing that babysitting costs like $15 an hour. When I grew up and have kids of my own, I will see how stupid I was being. I was kind of done with being called stupid, so I just told them I hoped they could find someone else. My mom thinks that I asked for something offensive, and my cousin and her husband obviously did too. AITA for giving that number?
AITA for firing an employee after his parents died? By resident_occasion. I'm the VP of sales at a software company, and one of our sales development reps' parents passed away at the beginning of April. Sadly, they were involved in a car crash and both lost their lives. Now the employee in question is a very young 22-year-old guy and has been with us for about 10 months now. He's a great employee and we were thinking about promotions in the next /6 months for him. His job is a high-paying one for a new grad, about /90K with commission and base, so we expect a lot from this position. Because of the accident, we let him take a 1-month paid leave of absence from work, and he's returned a few weeks ago and his performance is severely lacking. He's super unmotivated, not cold calling, outreaching to prospects for the last 2 to 3 weeks enough since he's come back. Our whole management team has noticed this and we decided to let him go because we feel like he'd need months and months to be able to produce again, and we can't just wait that long. We called him into a meeting on Friday afternoon and gave him the bad news. He was very calm and rude about it. Told us to go fuck ourselves and got up and went to his desk, grabbed his few things and left. I thought this was very unprofessional and extremely rude. I told my boyfriend about all of this and he said myself and my management team are a bunch of asses and pricks with no hearts. AITA /update/. Holy fuck, this blew up. I know this was shitty of me now. And I reached out to him to see how he's holding up. He's staying at his GF's place and she's supporting him a lot right now. I offered to get my headhunter friend in touch with him when he's ready and he accepted.
AITA For shouting at my ex in front of my daughters? By aitaposthrowaway. I, 37M, have 3 girls, 8, 10, and 12. Their mother walked out on us for another man when our youngest was earned 4. My ex still stays in contact, though, and pays child support. A few weeks ago while doing laundry, I saw red spots on my oldest's underwear. I asked her if she knew about it, and she cried and told me she tried to call her mom, but my ex didn't call back. She'd been stuffing toilet paper in her underwear, hoping that would work. I explained to her that periods are nothing to be ashamed of, and found some great resources online for us to review together. I took her to the store to pick out brands of feminine products she wanted to use. She picked Playtex Sport because she's a gymnast. After we were done, I decided I should do the same thing with my other 2. My 12-year-old volunteered to be part of preparing them, and we made a whole night of it. It was wonderful, and I learned a lot. I even learned what a menstrual cup is, and how they benefit the environment. The other day, my ex called back. I'll usually arrange a video chat and leave the room so they can have some alone time, and when they're done chatting, I'll come back in to talk boring co-parenting stuff like school, bills, etc. This last time, my ex was furious with me for talking about periods with the girls. She shouted at me that I was sick and perverted. Why didn't I call her myself if I knew it was so urgent? I could have called one of their grandmas/aunts, but my mom has dementia, while her mom and sisters call me a loser because I teach kindergarten, so I'm not fond of them. My ex told me I was being immature and should have just toughed it out for the girls. This really pissed me off, so I shouted back that maybe if she wasn't such a deadbeat and answered her goddamn phone once in a while, she could have handled this. I brought up everything she does that hurts them. She hasn't been to a single soccer game, piano recital, or gymnastics meet in 2 years. Every other weekend when they come home from her house, they go straight to their rooms, only to emerge hours later asking me why she loves her new husband more than them, and what did they do to make her leave. My ex responded by saying I should tell them it's not their fault I couldn't satisfy her, and I screamed fuck you, and she just smirked and pointed behind me, saying look what you did. When I turned around, my 8-year and 10-year were standing in the doorway crying. It broke my heart. I never shout, so I know I scared them. My 12-year stormed in and started screaming at her mom, and while I appreciate her sticking up for me, this is not a battle I want her fighting. My ex hung up before I could fully de-escalate the situation, and let's just say the girls have been given free reign of the ice cream and limitless hours of video games, because I feel so bad. I even watched all the Twilight movies with them, so don't say I don't love them. But in this instance, AITA For shouting?
AITA For demanding my sister pay rent for living at home with my parents and refusing to pay my rent until she does? By aljsdhnrthrow 333. Background: I graduated from college 4 years ago, live at home with my parents. My sister graduated 2 years ago and also lives with my parents. We both got jobs pretty much straight out of college. I pay my parents $800 per month in rent since my first paycheck. This is a throwaway and it's still fresh and I'm really emotionally charged right now. Last night my parents were talking loudly about their financial problems in the living room. I overheard and I offered to help by paying more in rent. I was thinking $900-1000, since it covers utilities/phone/internet. My parents were grateful. Now, prior to this, I never asked my how much sister pays in rent. I always figured my parents charged us the same. So absent-mindedly I asked a follow-up question. Me, how much is my sister paying for rent? My mom, nothing. A long-ass pause. Me, what do you mean she doesn't pay rent? My dad, visibly angry, your sister doesn't pay a fucking thing. My dad explained how my sister recently bought a brand new car and hasn't paid insurance on it, so my dad had to pay for it. She doesn't pay rent. She doesn't pay utilities/phone/anything. So for the past 2 years she's been living rent-free while I've been paying my parents. So later that night we had a family sit-down talk. My sister didn't want to pay rent, especially at how much I was paying. She offered $100. My parents suggested she pay $300. I pay $800, which my sister and I both rejected. The conversation ended with this. "Sister, fuck you. I'm trying to live my life." These were her exact words, which pissed me the fuck off to holy hell. So my sister storms after her room and it's now me, my parents in the living room. I'm extremely upset at this because it's massively unfair. My mom is upset that everyone's angry at each other and my dad's angry my sister won't pay rent and she won't move out and both my parents don't want the police involved. So I say my part before leaving. Me, I'm not going to pay any more rent until she does. It's only fair, right? And if I do pay rent, I pay whatever she's being. My mom, what if she pays $300 and you pay $800? Me, no. My mom, but me, we really need the money. Me, that's too bad. I get up and go off to my room. So this morning my dad comes and tells me that I'm an asshole for not paying rent. That I should pay rent because it's the right thing to do and all this shit. I'm like, what the hell? Make my sister pay rent. My mom, who's listening in. You've seen her. She won't listen to us. Me, well that's too bad. My mom, really angry, well we wouldn't have this problem if you didn't try to make your sister pay rent. That was the last straw that blew it for me. I slammed the door on my parents. As I'm typing this my parents are in the living room discussing how both their children are rotten and shit was better back in the home country / back in their day when kids listened to their parents. Like WTF?
AITA for not saying anything about the underwear? By deleted. My 20-year-old daughter and her fiancé are currently staying with us. I love my daughter but she is very difficult and I can't stand her fiancé. I gave them a deadline to move out because I can't take this anymore. They got into a massive fight the other day while my wife was out. I guess a pair of my wife's underwear got in with their laundry and she thought he was cheating. I think the fact she immediately jumped to cheating shows how bad their relationship is. She was waving the underwear around and I recognized them because they had a floral print, but I just let this ridiculous fight go on. My wife came home after about 30 minutes and said they were hers. My wife asked if I didn't realize they were hers and I accidentally laughed. My daughter burst into tears and won't talk to me. Her fiancé said we're fucked and left the house, but my wife thought it was funny.
AITA for telling my family that if they gift us money for our wedding, there will be no strings attached or we will politely decline it. By wedding off me. I fucking hate wedding culture. It's bullshit. My fiancé and I thought we would escape the bullshit and money by having a small thing. Well, family started trying to throw money at us to make it bigger and more spectacular. We were surprised, but it was a good surprise. Then the demands started coming out. They wanted this, they wanted that, they wanted this person to come, these colors, dresses can't do this person has to be flower girl, this person has to be a groomsman, etc. etc. Suddenly it didn't feel like our wedding, but an excuse for our families to have a family reunion. We put our foot down and said, "Thank you all for your kindness and generosity when it comes to our wedding. Unfortunately, it looks like we may not have been on the same page as the rest of you. When we were offered money for this wedding, we did not realize it came with strings attached. With so many requests and so many demands from people we didn't expect would think they had a say in our wedding, we have decided to give everyone their money back. Our understanding of what a gift is must be very different. If you would like to give us money without strings attached or requests or demands, we will gracefully accept it. But if you believe a gift should come with stipulations, we must regretfully and politely decline." This has caused an epic shitstorm. Such to the point where I have people saying they will never come to our wedding. Honestly, not the worst thing in the world, that we are spoiled, we're assholes, etc. 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 My parents are rather upset about it, but hers, who never made any demands and gave us a small cash gift, said we did the right thing. We are halfway to canceling the whole party and just absconding into the wilderness to do the wedding the way we want. AITA? Are we?
AITA because I refuse to go and visit my special needs stepsister in hospital even though she's very sick? I low-key hate her. By my stepsister Ispisha. I'm 15 years old. I have a stepsister who is a couple years older than me and she is really seriously disabled. I'm not sure what's wrong with her because no one ever wants to discuss it with me, but she's nonverbal, breaks her bones a lot, and has severe epilepsy and will have many fitting episodes. She also doesn't understand stuff. That's probably the easiest way to put it. She's just a human body with nothing inside. She's my stepmom's daughter. My stepmom married my dad 3 years ago and they dated only for a year before that. I don't know my stepmom very well and I don't really get on with her. We are respectful to each other but am basically living with strangers because she's so busy with her daughter and my dad. I am always on my own and I used to hate it but I'm used to it now. Ever since they moved in to live with us, life changed drastically for me because all the care now revolves around my stepsister. That's fine, I get it. But both my stepmom and my dad ask me to do things for my stepsister that I don't want to do and I resent doing. Stuff like staying home when I want to go to the mall with my friends. They're disappointed that I don't get her anything for her birthday with my very limited funds, etc. My own mom passed away when I was small, so I can't go and stay anywhere else, and all in all I'm just a lot more angry than I used to be because they seem really disappointed whenever I say I don't want to do anything for her. Even stuff like feeding her, like I don't want to sit there feeding her banana pudding and wiping her drool. I didn't ask for this. Anyway, she recently fell a few days ago and had a seizure for 8 minutes. She was taken to hospital and the doctors want to keep her in and look after her. I don't want to go and visit her. I remember seeing my mom in hospital before she died and I just hate hospitals and I sort of hate my stepsister and I just don't want to go and visit someone who doesn't even know I'm there. My stepmom is really upset with me and so is my dad. They haven't yelled at me or anything but they are both being super cold towards me because I don't want to visit. My grandma who lives in Canada called me up out the blue and told me it was okay and I don't need to force myself to go to the hospital, so I'm assuming my dad has told her I'm refusing to go. He keeps pleading with me but I keep telling him I'm not doing it. I told him hospitals remind me of mom and he got even more upset and said my stepsister might die and I need to stop being so selfish towards my stepmom. I just want to know what Reddit thinks because half my friends think I should go and the other half think I'm justified in saying no.
AITA For making fun of a white girl for being because she was being racist. By throwRA-fhfsveyary. I'm Asian, more specifically one of the only Chinese people in my grade, which has been absolutely fun these days. So the girl in question has been racially harassing me since the beginning of lockdown, when she DM'd and said, "Did the bat taste good? Thanks a lot, you fucking freak." I reported her to my school, and they literally just dropped it because they said tensions were high, and she couldn't be blamed because her uncle had Kona, some BS like that. Then I got repeated messages like that from fake/newly created accounts, that I suspect were from her, and I just kept blocking them until I guess she gave up because I wasn't reacting. My school district has chosen to do in person, massively dumb emo, but whatever. On the literal second day of school, she walks up to me while I'm in the lunch line and says in a thick Asian accent, "Are you eating bat dumpling or dog noodle?" Other people around me fucking laughed, and I'm sure I don't have to explain this, but I felt fucking humiliated. It finally felt like I got her off my back for a little while, and she comes back as soon as school starts. And I already know my school administration isn't going to go to bat for me. I don't know a lot about this girl, since obviously I try to avoid her, but I did know that she had shitty teeth, lived in a trailer, and was very I'm ashamed to have stooped to this, but I just wanted to show her how I felt for once, so I said, "I'd be less concerned with what I'm eating if I were you, and more worried about your diet, since you're the one who needs to figure out how to brush her teeth in a trailer with no running water. Stop trying to get sent to a hospital when you can't afford healthcare." Other students nearby told me I went too far because it wasn't her fault she was like it was my fault I was Asian. She literally fucking cried, like I didn't cry every time she called me a fucking chink. She's left me alone ever since though, which doesn't matter since I plan on transferring anyways.